Thanks for joining us. This is Jonathan Watson from theonering.com, along with Michael Grumbine, right over there next to me, and he is here joining us on the day that the long-form trailer for The Rings of Power, the Amazon Prime show, has been released, and we are without our the third side of our triangle, Dan Coates. He's off hard at work at the Babylon Bee, so he was unable to make it. He wishes he were here, and it'd be great to have his insight, because he hasn't the deep knowledge of the Lord of the Rings and Middle-earth and the Silmarillion and all those other things that Michael and I kind of come with. So there's an edge missing. We're sorry for that. But thanks for joining us. Before I say anything more, I want to remind you that if you like what we're doing, if you like the Tolkien stuff that we're bringing you, just hit subscribe, hit like, share this. We'd love to get the message out that there are Tolkien fans who still really love Tolkien, and we try to keep it close to the vest like that. We want to keep Tolkien. So anyway, we want to go over this trailer, and before we do, I just want to say I showed this trailer to my son. He's 12 years old. He hasn't finished The Lord of the Rings yet, but he's a voracious reader. He's read everything from the Hardy Boys to half of The Lord of the Rings at this point. And kind of is all the time looking at all these things. So he has like, when it comes to stories and all that sort of stuff, he has good knowledge, kind of like Mike's kids. Mike, do I call you Mike? Michael's children. And he showed him the trailer, and his first reaction was, well, it looks nice, but what is it about? Which is funny, because that was my first reaction too. So for instance, on Twitter today, I put together a tweet thread that was indicative of that, and that's kind of exactly what I started with here, where I mentioned leans into the two things, but then it goes down into, we don't know what the story is about, right? We have no clue who the bad guys are. We have no clue who we should really care about. Why are they showing some of these characters? So anyway, I thought that was funny that his take was my first take too, and we want to go from there. I know, Michael, you also showed it to your kids. Did they have a similar look, or what was their initial thoughts on yours too?
They did. They found the trailer in general to be exciting, and saw some things that they recognized. Especially, I have daughters and children that have read the Silmarillion, so they recognize some of the elements of that.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that it was better than the silliness that we got in earlier teasers made a generally positive impression on them, but they didn't really have any idea what it was about either. They were just sort of, 2.5 minutes of interesting shots.
Which is kind of what we had in the first one, just a smaller amount of it. So, right. All right, well, so let's take a look, and let's start with the trailer. We'll play it here, and we'll give you our thoughts as we go through it. If you have any thoughts, and if you think we're wrong about anything, please do let us know below. We'll try and respond if there's anything major that we got wrong, or some news that we missed. But we're kind of on top of things here. All right. So, one thing also interesting. So this is from 5 p.m. Central Time, which I guess is 6 p.m. Eastern Time. This was when this page was last refreshed. But here you can see that we have 35,000 likes and 57,000 dislikes, which is a pretty low amount of likes for a trailer that's been viewed almost 1.1 million times. I think there are a lot of people who are just not happy with the way that it's turning out. And we'll go over some of that, because there are positives and negatives, and for me, anything that's not strictly Tolkien is always more on the negative side. Generally, I mean, that's just my disposition. It's hard to overcome that. So anyway, all right, so we'll get started. Let's go full screen.
Let's do it.
There was a time when the world was so young.
So this is Galadriel speaking when she says there was a time when the world was so young.
There had not yet been a sunrise. But even then, there was light.
So even then there was light, right? Which of course is the trees. And
so it's the light of the two trees, Laureline and Telperion. I have to say, we have been critical of the stuff they've done in the past for, I believe, good reasons. This particular opening and this particular shot, I have to give credit where it's due. I really like this. I like the fact that they're giving us a beautiful shot of Valinor and the two trees, which is in Galadriel's memory, from Galadriel's memory, clearly. And I am interested, given the fullness of this trailer, I'm interested how they're going to deal with what happened in the first age. Is it going to be flashbacks from the characters who were there? Are they going to actually devote some episodes to showing us what went on at certain points in the first age? So that's kind of an interesting question in my mind.
I bet it's going to be in the same way that we see it with other properties like Star Wars and even the Wheel of Time, where they do the flashbacks in the middle of certain episodes, where they probably aren't going to bring us right into the first age and walk us through the timeline like that. But something will happen. Maybe it's a battle. Maybe it's Galadriel. Probably in that ice thing, whatever she's doing right there, trying to find what's going on in some sort of quest. And then we have some flashbacks when she talks to Elrond and that sort of stuff. That's my guess, but that's just the way.
You're probably right. Yeah.
There was light.
So this here is interesting. Those, I believe, are supposed to be elves. I don't know. You see them running right there? Not sure exactly.
Apparently, they all run in double line formation, which is
and they're two, and they're it's an eagle. I don't think it's an eagle of Manwë. I think it's just a bird. I have a feeling what's happening here is something along the lines of Galadriel knows Sauron is coming back, and she has to go back to Valinor in order to get help from the Valar. That's the only thing I can think, because it's in that boat that she ends up, that apparently her boat gets destroyed, and she meets Halbrand or something along those lines. The whole timeline is really tough for me to figure out. It's kind of like watching, I don't know if you've ever seen the first season of Westworld on HBO. It was actually all mixed together, the timeline, and they did that again, I think, in season 2. In any case, that feels like kind of what we have going on here, is we don't know when things are happening exactly, and that bothers me.
Yep, and it should, because there's a real timeline, of course, when things happen, and this is part of the danger that one does when one decides to take a timeline and compress it and put all kinds of things in, because that means you're going to leave a bunch of things out, and you're going to have to make connections where there wasn't one before, so you're going to have to make up stuff that wasn't there. And I don't mean make up stuff and just filling in things that would have happened or did happen but just aren't described by Tolkien. I mean, make stuff up like whole cloth Frankenstein things together. And that's might end up like a Frankenstein, a monster.
Yeah. It ended up that way with the last season of Game of Thrones, right, where they didn't have the books, they didn't have anything, and they Frankenstein stuff together, and everybody hated it. So unless you're the original author, generally you're not going to be able to do it as well as that original author would have.
Agreed.
Elves have forests to protect.
These are the Harfoots.
Their minds. Men their fields of grain. But we Harfoots have each other.
You want to pause it there?
Yeah, my favorite shot of the entire trailer, right here where we paused it.
I knew it was. I find it fascinating in a bad way that they are using the Harfoots as, which, by the way, we've been told too many times by people that the Harfoots are sort of proto-hobbits, which of course they aren't. They're actual hobbits. They're one of the kinds of hobbits in the time of the tale of Lord of the Rings. So they're not the proto-hobbits that they're being made out to be here. And I found it fascinating on a number of levels. The narration is coming from the hobbits, so we're supposed to be connecting with the hobbits. But I find myself emotionally, when I watch the 3 other races, the shot of the elves and their beautiful dwellings in the forest, the shot of the dwarves and their underground halls, and the shot of the men even in the fields, I find those to be more compelling than whatever this is here. So I don't find myself drawn to the hobbits at all, especially because apparently we had a shot with a hobbit wearing a haystack on their head, like hiding from the humans, like a la like a Navy SEAL. It's like a hobbit Navy SEAL, like hiding in the fields with the haystack, which just seems ridiculous. So
and is that a bong they're bringing up to their lips, or is it a flute? What do you think? Because it was one of the two. I wasn't sure.
I thought it was a whistle.
Hobbits love their pipe weed, and maybe weed had a completely different meaning for these proto-hobbits.
Yeah, let's lead into that bad joke.
So, and this shot, right? So, and the line was, elves have their trees, they can take care of the trees, dwarves have their minds, humans have their wheat, but we have each other. Which, it's not a very Tolkien thing to say, in my opinion. Like, elves didn't just have the trees, right? That was maybe the Sylvans, I guess you could say, were the ones that they met. But anyway, I digress. Here, though, this shot of them cavorting in a forest, clearly, again, I don't know. I think they're trying to do them, make them some sort of like proto-English character, like a Celtic, like a pagan, right? Like the communing with the earth. That's why they said that they travel with the harvest. Wherever the harvest is, that's where they go, which is an odd thing too. But anyway, this shot just
unless it's other people's harvest and they like steal from them, because that shot of the hobbits in the fields of the men was
that's right.
Maybe that's the way it works.
But they're little. They don't need much grain, just a little bit. If it's stealing a little bit, it's not as bad as stealing a lot, right? Anyway, all right, let's go on.
We're safe.
They're safe. Okay, based on the works of J.R.R. Tolkien, not adapted from or by, just based, because, well, we know that they paid $250 million for just the rights to the appendices to The Return of the King. They don't even have the Silmarillion or anything else. Everything else I think they had to get explicit approval for, but it's based. So don't expect what Peter Jackson did, which is take The Lord of the Rings, try and get it made, try and get 3 films made, and actually hew closely to what Tolkien wanted. And as he said in an interview, he wanted to do it to respect the professor, to respect Tolkien, and to do it as he would have it, not to inject their own vision and own views into it. But when it's based on it, you know.
Right. Well, if you zoom in, if people on the internet, if they zoom in to the left of the word based, in very dark letters, you could see the word kinda. Sorry.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's what it looks like, right? Kind of based. And again, you know, here's the funny thing is I'm the kind of person generally who likes to give the benefit of doubt, and maybe they weren't allowed to do some of this stuff because they didn't have the rights to it, and eventually the Tolkien estate wants to sell it to a real company that wants to make something much closer to the Silmarillion. Because so last night I completely reread Akalabeth in the Silmarillion because I wanted to keep it forefront in my mind about what happens there on Numenor, because there's a lot of exposition without a whole lot of conversation in that story.
Right.
And there's so much that goes on, right? It's thousands of years. It's at least 2,500 years or something like that they're on Numenor, maybe more. I can't remember, but I know it's at least 2,000, more than 2,000.
It is over 2,000.
Yeah. So, but there are so many good parts of that could have been made into these full season long series, just like they would take, the Book of Boba Fett or parts of, I guess Obi-Wan even, right? Those are long movies, and they could have done that with some of those characters, and then they could have come back and had those characters again in a separate story, which would have been really interesting because they're like 300 or 400 years older. But they don't do that, and that makes me a little bit sad because they're compressing 2,000 years down to a single point in time. So are we going to see them battling Sauron, and then like 10 years later or 5 years later or something like that, Sauron is defeated again battling Morgoth, and then Sauron is defeated again by the Númenóreans, or he just comes in, he doesn't even fight them, he just comes in and he says, okay, I give up, you're way too strong, and then he ends up being taken prisoner, which I think we'll see in this trailer if we're right. Anyway.
Yeah, it's the whole compression thing. It messes with your ability to tell a story that actually respects Tolkien. So
true,
absolutely. I think this is going to be, as we go through the months, I think this is going to be the source, kind of like the original sin of this adaptation, or whatever we want to call this, is going to come back to the fact that they changed the storyline completely. And that means there's just going to be a lot of messiness, and that's going to mess with the professor's work.
Yeah. All right.
You have fought long enough, Galadriel.
This is Elrond speaking.
Put up your sword.
So he says, you have fought long enough, Galadriel, put up your sword, which means Galadriel is, once again, Xena, warrior princess of here, which is interesting because all we see, I think, in general, is warrior females in this trailer for the most part. And there are a couple, I guess, here and there of the men, but specifically leading the army. And so if we take a look here at some of these images that came out in the Entertainment Weekly article this week, we see Tarmiriel in battle armor with her sword. She is the wife of Ar-Pharazon, the final king of Numenor, who essentially took her to wife when he wasn't allowed to. She's her cousin. She's his cousin. And she was the actual rightful successor to the throne of Numenor, and was essentially considered one of the faithful, or tried to be. And then the other shot of her, let's find it. That's her there too, but that's not the one I meant. It's one of these. There it is. See, she's leading the armies with a crazy helm there. However, so again, I think we see the whole warrior idea being primary in their attempt to make.
Right. The usual, there's only one type of strong woman possible, which is the strong woman who wears more armor than the men and leads the men in battle. And
It's sad.
It's a
That's all we get.
Very one-dimensional view of strong women.
Which is funny because, Galadriel is often written as one of the most powerful. And I would say even in Peter Jackson's films, you would look at that and say, like, well, who's one of the most powerful? You'd say Galadriel because of what she did and what she's done and how she helped the Fellowship. I mean, her power of that was that to try to portray in Lorien, I think, was effective. And it's sad. Anyway, all right, move on.
I agree.
Question now.
All right, elves through ice again, I guess.
Yeah, like on some sort of quest of some sort. Here they are through the ice again.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
It doesn't appear to be the Helcaraxeg journey. It appears to be, you said, some sort of quest.
I think she's trying to find the source of the evil, wherever that is. That's my guess is, and maybe it has to do with Helcaraxeg after the Dagor Bragollach. Where the War of Wrath or the War of Flames, that would be Numenor. Pretty cool. I mean, there's the waterfall.
I like that shot.
I mean, visually, yeah, it looks great.
It is over.
You have not seen what I've seen.
I have seen my share.
You have not seen.
All right. So they're underwater, a lot of dead bodies, looking up at something aflame. So this is what makes us all think that this is the Dagor Bragollach, the War of Flame, where Sauron first released the... Wait, is it Sauron? No, Morgoth, yeah, not Sauron. He released the dragons the first time.
Right. Technically, he released the volcanic fires and ash as well, and then the dragons followed. And it was at the lull where the Noldor elves had felt that they had finally contained him for many, many centuries, and there was even the world was green and all the way up into his very walls, and so the elves had thought they were at a stalemate. They couldn't take his fortress. Unbeknownst to them, he had spent centuries perfecting the dragon, or at least starting to perfect the dragon, and then he came out in this. The Dagor Bragollach and War of Sudden Flame, I believe is the translation, and
Sudden Flame, yeah, okay,
and basically destroyed all the armies. They fought. They were all separated, all the different forces and armies of the elves and dwarves and men. There was great bravery, but this was the beginning of the end for the forces of good in Middle Earth until they're saved by the Valar.
Yeah, and this is also the battle where Galadriel's two brothers perished as well, Angrod and Aegnor. And so it would make sense that if she's recalling this, that would be part of what she recalls, is that her brothers were killed by Morgoth. It'll be interesting to see, can they portray Morgoth? Because they have to portray Morgoth as more powerful than Sauron, which doesn't really work if you're not going to make him anything of a character, right? So like it'll be interesting to see how can they make this part of, how can they make Sauron and Morgoth in flashbacks look as though they're working together, or something that makes him a big bad guy again, because Morgoth is
right. That's a good point. And maybe they're just trying to avoid the whole Morgoth thing, except for mentioning him in flashbacks that don't focus in on him. I mean, following this battle that you're seeing the scene from, no doubt, I think we're right about that. That's when Fingolfin actually fights Morgoth and is killed.
Right.
The only time that an elf has fought a Valar. So anyway, it's a time of tragedy, and Galadriel is recalling it clearly here.
Yeah.
What I have seen.
I mean, great visuals still. If a little over the top. Sometimes we get so beaten down by great visuals that we don't care anymore. And like I saw that in my 12-year-old when he saw this, he's like, "Well, it looks nice," but he sees nice things every day. It's not. Special effects isn't what it used to be when it would wow us just to see it. And the other thing, it's going to be on a small screen. If this was on a big screen, it would probably look a whole lot better, because like small screen, like my TV, rather than going to an IMAX theater.
Good point.
Darkness will march over the face of the...
So that's Gil-galad telling us that darkness will march over the face of the earth. with Elrond. Probably, maybe, I don't know where that is. Maybe the Grey Havens. You can see it's almost water with two mountainsides right there.
Right. That's my guess as well.
It will be the end, not just of our.
So this is where we see these are elves. What the guess is, what they're going toward Valinor, toward Aman, to do something. There's no record of Galadriel actually taking a boat anywhere towards Valinor again. Right? Am I missing? She doesn't do that.
No, you're right. And so the question would be, like, what are they doing here? I mean, I know people have speculated that this is the preceding scene to the shipwreck of some kind,
because she's wearing
what she's wearing, which may seem to make sense, but we don't know if is she going to Valinor, or is this just a vision of, she's just traveling on the boat? I hope they don't make her part of the journey of Arendelle. I hope that doesn't happen.
But I mean, that's not even Arendelle's boat.
Yeah, that's right.
Can't be.
It's not.
I mean, there's right, and this here hews towards what the Tolkien wrote, is that they didn't have rowers or anything like that on their boats, right? They would just use sails, and unlike men's boats. Anyway, okay, ships. Sorry, not boats. Dinghies, pontoons. Okay, move on. So there she is on the boat, right, looking towards what I'm guessing is the light of Valinor. I mean, I don't know. It's so weird. Unless the sun is setting in the west.
There's so much light there. It almost feels like it's got to be Laureline.
But why? Like, she left after Laureline. She wouldn't come back because Laureline was already sucked dry by Ungoliant by the time.
I mean, look. It's
sorry, Michael. It's all your fault.
It's possible, like, if I'm going to be as charitable as possible, maybe this is some kind of flashback to the time of the two trees, where she's coming from the Isle of the Teleri and towards towards the gap. I don't know.
It's Tarmiriel.
Mm-hmm. Don't know who that is.
What is?
The old man, the man with the beard and the embers.
Oh, this guy. Oh, this is. That's a good question. So there's a guy with who they show, like, it's almost like there are fires or there are flames with everybody. I'm betting this is the Meteor Man when he lands, and those are the embers falling around them, and these are the hobbits who come to meet him, because the first trailer had a hobbit pulling him out of that.
Right.
So. Good question. I don't know. We still don't know who Meteor Man is, who Halbrand is. Are they one and the same? Are they Sauron? Is one Sauron? Is the other something else?
This figure looks much older than HalBROOOO.
He does. HalBROOOO.
Oh.
I am sorry, but their time.
I like that shot of the Kingdom of the Dwarves.
It is nice. And it's where people think this is Durin the Third saying, "I am sorry, but their time has come," to his son, his actually official son, Durin the Fourth, because that's also not what Tolkien wrote. Because Durin is simply a name given to one who is most like the forefather, the original Durin. So
where they think somehow the spirit is reincarnated.
Yes.
But you don't get the name Durin at birth. You get the name.
You do
Durin.
not.
Given to you later on in life, if you are in fact a type of Durin.
Yeah. There he is. There's HalBROOOO.
The GQ shot of HalBROOOO.
You can see his guitar strap slung over his shoulder, and the I know. So so the rumor is that this guy is Sauron, and he's in a Númenórean court of some kind. So is this when he was taken captive after creating the rings? But that would be so much further into the series. This is what I hate, right? Knowing so much about what the story should be, and that we can't figure out how it's actually going together, is not a feather in their cap. This doesn't bode well for how they're actually writing this, because we know these stories. Like, there are hundreds of thousands of people who have read these books so deeply, that know these stories so well, but we can't figure out exactly who's who and where's what and why's why, and I can't.
And
can't stand that.
It's so true, Jonathan, but also from a storytelling perspective, we don't care about anyone that Amazon has invented. Like, it is possible to make people get people to care if you have an original series and you have original characters, and over time that people get attached to them because the acting is excellent, the writing is excellent, and over seasons you get attachment to those characters. The problem you have doing that with this book is that there is so much here that we already care about, which is in the professor's work, and they're just injecting random characters that we're supposed to care about, and we don't care. Like, I mean, aside from the GQ look, like the guy looks like he's got a future in male modeling, so great. But besides that, I don't care. Like, there's nothing to make me care in this shot.
Yeah, the tilt of his head is perfect. He could be a cover model at some point.
Yep.
Moving on. Oh, the past is with us all. That was Arendir, the love of Bronwyn, another forbidden elf human love. Thankfully, I didn't notice her at all in this trailer. These are Numenor. No, these are elves running forth. There's Galadriel right in the front, in some sort of battle. Again, I don't know what battle this would be. I mean, maybe these are what the is it the Iron Mountains, the Blue Mountains? I can't remember. The Dagor Bragollach. This could be then. We don't know. I mean, that battle lasted 40 years, according to Tolkien.
Yeah. It was a series of battles, and many of them across plains like this with mountains surrounding. So it could be, or it could be in Middle Earth proper. Not Middle Earth proper. I mean, the part of Middle Earth that we are familiar with through Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
So I don't know. My guess is this is a flashback. I don't. Yeah. Maybe not.
We'll see. Okay.
The past is dead. We either move forward or we die with it.
The past is dead. Either we move forward or we die with it. Is that Elendil? Did we find out?
Is that? Yeah, that's the question. Who is that saying that? Because in Tolkien's world, the past isn't dead. The past is better. That's the reality in Tolkien's world. And so,
and you this is something you brought up actually in an earlier podcast regarding armor and weapons, and that's why the Hobbits, when they got the swords of Numenor, right? Weren't they Numenoran swords?
They were not from Numenor. They were from the kingdoms of the north.
The Dunedain that were up there.
The Dunedain of the north.
Which I guess Numenorian.
Kingdom of Arnor.
Yeah. So those were better, right?
Yep.
Anyway, yeah. So you were going to say,
and so if this is an ultimately evil character saying this, what amounts to a 21st century progressivism line of the past is dead, like long live the future. Everything in the future is not automatically better. If that's the case, then I'm down with it. But if it's a good character saying like we have to leave the past behind, that's not Tolkien world.
No.
Tolkien's world is trying to preserve the goodness that was given to them in the past and recognizing and trying to return to that. Never quite succeeding, but that's the so we'll see who that character is. I'm afraid that it's more 21st century trash woke writing going on here, but maybe not. Maybe it's a character trying to deceive people. And,
sure, maybe not.
Maybe not.
All right, moving on.
There's Ar-Pharazon, and then
so that will move back. That was Ar-Pharazon, like in riling up a crowd of people,
right?
Which is essentially what he did. Kind of a small crowd here. Maybe they'll augment that in post production. But small crowd. But he is the improper king of Numenor who ultimately sails to the Forbidden Lands and dies there under many, many rocks.
Right. And who's the guy after him in the shot with the sword, with the lance on the horse?
I don't know. Is that Numenorian? I can't tell.
It looks like the same barding. The horse barding looks the same as in the horses in the shot that Galadriel was leading the charge in.
Is that Isildur? Maybe? Because we have a shot of Isildur, like for instance, here, let's go back to this other shot on here. Sorry, I don't, there, no, we're finding it. There, this one. No, that's Elendil, I'm pretty sure right there.
Yeah.
That's his father. So probably one of those, or it could just be another in that battle that Galadriel or whomever is leading, or Tarmiriel, sorry, could be just a warrior doing something special.
Yeah, interesting. All right, so it's nothing, telling us nothing. Also,
no, and this is during the fourth, probably Mithril, right? Holding up Mithril, because Celebrimbor discovers Mithril, and he's there with him, and before they create.
And what's the line he says? This changes
everything. This could be the beginning of a new era. Oh, but Michael, your favorite shot of the entire trailer has got to be
Prince of Physics.
Arendir, Prince of Physics. Somehow in this shot of him up against what looks to be a warg, warg. He flips over, and then his flip speeds up as he falls back down. It's kind of weird. So, whoa, there it is.
Kind of odd. He's chained.
Yeah. Right before that shot, though, I would think here's what is this shot? Right. This is Elvish warriors, I believe. Yes.
Yeah, this could.
Some sort?
My guess is these are Noldor princes.
You think these are the children of Feanor? Maybe. Do you think they go all
think
the way
that's a
back?
distinct possibility. Yes.
Where did they take the vow? Do you remember? Did they take it on Tyrion? Yeah.
They
So
took
this
it at
could be
Tyrion.
something on Tyrion. It is dark, so no trees, right? No moon, no Telperion, no Silpion. So we got nothing. Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
So this could be a flashback to the vow. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Galadriel. Galadriel fighting an orc or fighting a troll, and then we get Meteor Man.
Meteor Man. Can't have a Lord of the Rings trailer without Meteor Man.
So the going thought is that, boy, this looks like the Eye of Sauron from Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings.
See, that's been my theory since I saw Meteor Man. It's supposed to be Anatar.
Yeah. So is Halbrand really then? Is he really just a foil for Galadriel, another forbidden love, because they end up on a boat together?
I really think they are going to try to make HalBROOO into some kind of compelling character. I remember one of the articles that was written that was talking about how he's some kind of exile from his people or something like that.
Yeah, he's on the run from his past.
He's on the run from his past or something. So I think they're going to try to give this guy a career following his GQ shoot. But we'll see.
All right.
Eye of Sauron-ish, yep.
And then the Harfoots.
Oh, this is my favorite look at how the people beyond the first person are walking. Oh, that's awesome. They are walking exactly as I walk when I snorkel and have my fins on. I have flippers, and so you have to lift your feet higher and splay your legs outwards so that because you're kind of flapping along, so it's clear that the prosthetics are not what.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
I mean, it looks so bad. I can't believe they were okay with that shot. She looks like she's struggling not to fall down the hill.
Exactly.
And then what's up with like their incredibly dirty feet too? I mean, I get that they're supposed to be earthy at this point, but it's ridiculous. And the amount of shots they have, again, with twigs and salad in their hair, other things that are just randomly thrown in, dill.
They're just trying to tell us that the hobbits are dirty people.
It's so weird because, the Hobbit starts out with, it wasn't a dirty, dank hole strewn with worms and other ill-gotten things. It was home and it meant comfort. And this is nothing of the sort. I can't stand that they changed them so dramatically.
Which clearly, they are absolutely, without a doubt, trying to give them their own vibe and trying to say, we wanted hobbits, which is weird because they put hobbits in here when they shouldn't be here. They put them in here. Yeah. Because they're supposed to be the familiar thing, right? They're supposed to draw people, because who can imagine Middle Earth without hobbits? But then they give us Middle Earth without the hobbits that people love, because what people love about hobbits includes all of those things of the life in the Shire, the simple rural, agrarian life, and these people are like proto-pagan, dirty, weird homeless utopia creatures. I don't know what they are. So
it's odd. Yeah, and so then we just simply get after that. It's the trailer's over. We get the Rings of Power coming September 2nd. So after all that, Michael, what are there? I mean, clearly it's easier to be negative. It's always easier to be negative, especially when we have something that we're comparing it to. So I'll continue to be negative because I have something to compare it to. But is there anything about this that you would say, hey, I really like this part of it, or something about this character that you actually really liked?
So everything that was, what will probably end up being a bunch of flashbacks. It's a lot of the flashback stuff from what may be this shot right here. Lauraline and Telperion, beautiful shot. And wonderful to bring in the history of light. That's one of Tolkien's biggest thematic returns that he always comes back to, is light and darkness. So leaning into that, even with the narration, I like that. The perhaps what is the vow of the Noldor princes, that's if that's what that is, that's a cool shot. Anything that has to do with the Dagor Bragollach is, as long as they do it well, and they've got that shot that you brought up with Galadriel covered in ash from the Entertainment Weekly. still shot, that's perfect. Like, this is the kind of thing, like, it would have been a absolutely terrifying and traumatic first battle. When the mountains spew flame and the dragons come forth and the elves are just crushed. This is good stuff. This is like, but the problem is there's nothing that we can care about yet. The hobbits are poorly done. There's no story they're giving us to latch onto. It's just a bunch of feels about with some shots to go with it. So there is some stuff that I'm positive about. But there's other stuff that I'm positively terrified about.
Yeah, I would say that they had a nice blueprint to work off of with Peter Jackson, and then Peter Jackson had John Howe and Alan Lee, and so we still see so much of that in those deep shots of Numenor and of the Elven areas where Gil-galad is, and we see a lot of that. But making a story pretty doesn't make the story, right? It's the characters and the motivations and the conversations, the relationships. And if they don't hit those, it's going to be really hard to win a lot of Tolkien fans over. And from what I see, based on the characters that I know, I have not been won over by any any stretch of the imagination. I don't like where they're going with. I mean, I'm so tired of women leading battles at this point. It's like men don't matter. I mean, here in this entire trailer, no man speaks of battle. It's the women every time, and it's Elrond who's trying to sway Galadriel, to keep her out of battle, and essentially saying things are okay. But that's not even the conversation I don't think they would have ever had. Right? He would have listened to her. He would have been okay with like saying, okay, well, what are you really thinking? But that's not it. It's she's the brash young warrior, even though at this point she has lost her father isn't around anymore. I think he's gone back to Valinor at this point. Her two brothers are dead, right? She's seen the destruction of the Oath of Feanor. Like, she's a wise person beyond her years. Ultimately, even at this point, she's been I believe at this point she's even been she was taken under the care of Thingol and Melian, wasn't she? She stayed with them for a while. So that alone should give her a gravity that we are not getting at all in the character. And I am disappointed that they couldn't even see that. I mean, I think we felt that in a way with the way that Peter Jackson portrayed Galadriel, even though we didn't get any of that story in the movies. Rightly so, we didn't need that. But we don't even see any of that. She's brash, she's young, she's carrying a sword every single time. The only time we see her at ease is on the boat traveling towards Valinor, I guess. I mean, it could be towards Numenor, but that wouldn't make any sense with the way that the light is shining on that. So anyway, my fear is that those relationships and the way that they're writing is very pithy, right? The statements are made to be quotable instead of memorable. I feel like it's I compare it to Tolkien, and Tolkien wrote with depth and with a lot of thought and a lot of rewriting, meaning it's nothing like the Book of Lost Tales, and there's so much more to it than there was. And because they don't have anything to go off of, again, they don't have the books, they don't have even the words that were in the Silmarillion in the brief conversations that were had, or the statements from there. All they have are the appendices, and there's not much there to go off of. So maybe they're not allowed to, maybe. But if they're not, they shouldn't have done it, because it's not going to end up with what, as we know.
Right. The best this is trending towards right now is some fan fiction in my mind.
Yeah, billion-dollar fan fiction. It'll look pretty, but it's not going to be much like Tolkien, and I don't think it's going to be much like the Galadriel or much like the Elrond.
I have a hard time seeing it even being the hit that Martin's work was. So that lasted for a few years, and everyone was gaga about it. I'm not seeing that same reaction. It's not a good sign that late in the day, on the drop of the trailer, less than 10% of the people that watched the video gave it a reaction, and of those, 2/3 were negative versus one. It's roughly 2/3, 1/3 positive. It's not a good thing.
It's not. I mean, people were hoping for something that was more like Tolkien, more like even the gravity that Peter Jackson put into his first trailer. I showed my kid the first trailer for The Fellowship of the Ring. He was like, "Wow, that looks amazing," and he gets it right. They tell a little bit of the story in that trailer, but here we get nothing. I mean, maybe they're going to release another one. They've got another 50 days, but they got to start telling.
They're definitely going to release another one. There's no way they don't. But yeah, we'll probably get something in August, and maybe something right before a little thing. Right.
I guess
right
they do
before.
call this the main teaser right here, not the main trailer. But we'll see. We'll see. Well, those are our thoughts, everybody. If you have anything that you want to say, please leave your comments below. We're pretty opinionated about this, but we do love The Lord of the Rings, and I hope that something good comes out of this. I mean, in the end, I'm sure more people will read about the Silmarillion, and we have The Fall of Numenor, I believe is the book title, coming up November 20th or 2nd or somewhere around there, which takes Tolkien's works and tries to put into a chronological format the things that happened to Numenor over the proper period of time.
And can I say, with regard to that was something I was really hoping they would lean into in this show. Like, Numenor is this unbelievably awesome tragedy of human hubris and power, and it's such a wonderful story. And that I'm not catching anything with regard to that. I mean, obviously there's some characters from Numenor, and obviously there's going to be something about Numenor.
Yeah.
But I'm not seeing anything, and so it's going to be sad if they just sort of give Numenor the short shrift on that.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's one shot actually, but it wouldn't make sense. But I'll bring it up anyway. There's one shot of Miriel, Tar Miriel, right? That's her name. Now I'm getting confused. In a pathway of some sort, and it looks like there are a bunch of petals falling down.
Right.
And the only thing that I could think of maybe at this point is that they've chopped down the tree, right? And those are all the petals falling down from the tree at the.
Yeah, the trees dying or dead in some way, and the petals are blowing through the city.
Well, Sauron convinces Ar-Pharazon to actually cut it down, to actually
right. What I mean is that's the death of the tree.
So that
in that moment, maybe the tree, maybe she's realizing what's happened, and the leaves are blowing through the city.
For all that to happen, though, in the first season seems like a lot to have to go from Sauron.
Do you think all these shots are from season 1?
That's all they filmed. I thought
they had parts of season 2 done.
Maybe they did. I know that they moved to England from New Zealand to film the next season, as far as I know. But I wasn't aware that they'd shot any significant part of season 2. So,
since we have a 5-season arc, if by the end of season 1 we have the death of the White Tree in Numenor, and basically nearing the end of the Numenor story, that's going to be really sad, because there's no way they could do Numenor justice in that short a span.
Unless they somehow make that early like they switch the timeline around and they make the tree cut down early, because then at that point you have to have Elendil stealing the sapling,
right?
Or the fruit. Sorry, the fruit that gets that he plants, and then
the formation
we'll
of the
see.
thing. Yeah.
And then we'll see Amandil. Will we see him going towards Valinor too? Right, because he leaves and takes 3 servants, I think, and goes towards Valinor.
There's nothing certain once you start mucking with the timeline.
I hate it.
We can't predict.
I hate it. Well,
we'll sit and slowly watch the madness unfold.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll keep reviewing it, and we intend to post videos every time there's a new episode. Though we can't guarantee it's going to be the day of, because, YouTube doesn't pay. In fact, it paid 0 right now. So, and I think we'll drop this on a bonus podcast episode too, so that everybody can listen in. But thanks for joining us.
Dan can join us next time.
Yeah, for sure. His life's a little crazy. He's got some big things going on over at the Bee. So, but thanks for joining us. Yeah, leave your comments below, and we'll see you the next time. Take care.
Take care.